as always, this podcast is sponsored by ERG Builders. Now, ERG Builders are the main sponsor for the podcast this year, and we're proud to have them on board. And now, ERG Builders, if you're new to the channel, are Northamptonshire based and in the Kettering area, and they aim to be the contractor of choice in the residential and commercial sector by approaching their work with honesty and integrity. You can contact them at 077363 74821 or head to their website www.ergbuilders.co.uk. Thank you for them, the people over there, for their support this year. And as you can see, today we have no guest on this episode. We're doing things a little bit different. So football is kicking off right up and down the pyramid, and Step 3 is back in action this weekend. And we're going to be diving in to the Isthmian Leagues and the Southern Central League Prem today, giving our previews for the season, some teams to look out for, some players and to keep an eye on for both St Albans and Kettering, but also across the league, and some teams who could have a horrid time at the bottom end of this table as well this season. And given the Isthmian point of view is our resident fan, Zach. Zach, how are we today, mate?
Yeah, very good. Looking forward to this.
I mean, how have you found pre-season so far? I mean, you've probably been to a few more games than I've been to, but how's the summer been for you?
Yeah, I've been to, I think, 12, 13 games over pre-season, so quite a lot. But yeah, enjoyed being back watching football.
No, definitely. And with it all kicking off this weekend as well, obviously Kettering are against Royston this weekend, and I believe St Albans are Chatham, isn't it, at home?
Yeah, at home, yeah.
Yeah, not bad at all. I think we'll kick off today then, mate, about, speaking about our respective clubs, and we'll start with, of course, it was a summer where going into it, you got relegated from Step 2 last season, didn't you, Zach, at St Albans, and Kettering ourselves find both teams at Step 3. Kettering had the opportunity to get out of Step 3 last season, but I think it's all fair and good to say that we blew it big time, being well and clear at the turn of the year, at the top of the table, getting to a playoff final, losing that to Telford at home as well. A real sucker punch. And I think a lot of fans feel it was a missed opportunity with the division getting so much tougher. But it's going to be an interesting season by all accounts, isn't it, for both clubs? And I think we'll kick off with St Albans, mate. So going into that first match day against Chatham, how are you feeling going into it?
Yeah, I'm feeling very much more confident than how I was feeling before pre-season. I think actually watching the team in place, watching sort of the new players, new signings that originally I was a bit more pessimistic about. But actually how they've performed in pre-season, it's really just impressed me. We've got like a proper solid team, mix of experience, youth, and although it's a small squad, I think it's like 18, 19 first team players. They've just gelled really well and just been playing like some really good football.
No, and how important is that to be? Because obviously Chatham have spent well, haven't they, in this division, going in throughout the summer. So it's going to be a tough task. I think, both teams probably going to be in and around that playoff picture, ain't they? But what have you made of Chatham? Have you seen much of them at all?
I haven't seen much of them, but I've seen they've gone full time, which is a massive advantage at Step 3. I'm kind of glad we're playing them first because I always think the full time advantage doesn't come in until sort of the mid-season point. So I think it's good to get them out of the way first, but it's going to be a very tough game. But quite a lot of quality players across the pitch. Sam Sene Richardson for Chatham is sort of a player to watch for them. Very young, very youthful. I think he's 18, but last season came sort of onto the scene for Chatham. It's done very, very well.
Yeah, and then like on the face of it as well, you said you've been to quite a few pre-season games this season. In terms of St Albans' pre-season, you said that you're a lot more, optimistic now, seeing the new players gelling and everything. It's been a relatively good pre-season results-wise, hasn't it? Obviously, like losing 2 games to Maidstone and Rail Bedford. But, also some good wins, Step 2 sides that you've gone up against and some professional under-21 sides as well. What is pre-season about for you then, mate? Because obviously, you look at, it's all about getting the new players in, the new tactics and everything else and bedding it all together. But do you look at results at all against like Step 2 sides?
Not really. I think it's very much just about how the team performs, especially when you've got sort of only 5 players from last season staying. Obviously, our manager in Colvhouse, it's sort of his chance to sort of make the squad his own because he came in mid-season last year. So he sort of has just made it his own, brought in his players, sort of just used pre-season to get them working together. I think the results have just been an added bonus on top of the performances, which have been very strong.
No, definitely. I mean, the reason I ask it is because Kettering, on the other hand, like obviously with St Albans playing some Step 2 teams, of course. I mean, Kettering always seem to be playing teams well below their level in pre-season. We never seem to play like a Step 2 or Step 1 side, or it barely even Step 3 sides half the time in pre-season. I think we've only played one this year, which was Basingstoke on Saturday, which we lost 3-2. I think we were 2-1 up or 2-0 up as well. So it's very odd. I always find it a bit weird that we don't go and challenge ourselves against Step 2 teams in pre-season, because we often find ourselves against like Step 5, Step 6 teams getting loads of trialists in and whatnot. And I understand, trying to get the trialists in and everything, but I do want to kind of see Kettering in pre-season test themselves a little bit more, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. For St Albans, we only played one team low, and that was Beaconsfield, which was a 7-0 win.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
good.
you've mentioned obviously some of the incomings and outgoings as well at St Albans this season. What have you made of the transfer season and the recruitment the club have made?
I think, well, for initial impressions, I was sort of not that impressed because there was a lot of players from like Step 4, Step 3, and like
Mm,
lower end teams. So at first I was like, oh, it's not great. But actually seeing the players, I think the recruitment team all them have done a fantastic job. Like the two players who have stood out most for me, like new signings, are Troy Perez doing and Ziz Kone, who both came from the bottom end of Step 4, both
yeah.
central midfielders. But they've been probably our best players in pre-season. Both keep the ball well, get us moving quickly. So yeah.
No, I think it's interesting because we've had quite a few trialists from like the same sort of levels, really, like bottom end of Step 4. Eddie Opang in particular, who I think he was at Mickleover and Belper United last season. Mickleover got relegated from their league, had a really tough time about it, and he has probably been the bright spark in pre-season as well. A lot of fans really excited about him. Comes off the left, comes off the right. Still young. I think he's about 22 or something like that as well. So still plenty of time for room to improve, and got so much experience in that front line at Kettering as well. It could only do him well learning off people like Leon Ledgebit, one of the best scorers in the division. Jamal Loza, who's been about for quite a while now. The reintroduction of Nile Ranger, which I'll talk about later, of course, this week. But yeah, looking at the last season, like we said, Denzat, weren't ideal at all for St Albans. But looking, into the new squad, like you said, a lot of changes. What are the strengths and weaknesses you see at the moment?
I think biggest strength is just like the experience in the side that we did bring in sort of late on in the transfer window. So sort of your Alex Dyer from Wildstone, Boswick from
Mm.
Boston. I'm trying to remember now. There's one more. I can't remember. There's one more experience that we brought in. Oh, Lewis Page at left back from Ebbsfleet, and also Jamal Fifield from
Mm.
Braintree and Bournemouth before that. So those sort of four players are just the experience core of just the leaders. But then you've also got the young good players who are sort of just that driving force and energy in the team.
Mm.
But I do think the weakness is very much the depth. I think 17 players is quite thin, 18 sort of first
Definitely,
team
yeah.
players. And you already saw in pre-season, quite a lot of games we had quite a lot of academy players on the bench who could be good enough, but it's a big risk with academy players because it's a huge jump from academy football to men's football.
No, especially if the pressure's going to be on, where you'd like to think St Albans will be playoff contention at least, wouldn't
Yeah,
you? So it'd be a big jump for, like you say, for those academy boys to go in. But like you say there, you've got a lot of experience coming in, and it can definitely help those younger players, can't it, to try and bed in, can't it?
100%.
Hey, look, I mean, the all important question then is, mate, I've spoke about it a little bit there because I think I expect St Albans to be in and around that playoff picture. Maybe not, at the top two as such, but in and around the playoff picture. We'll get onto predictions later, but in terms of St Albans, whereabouts do you have them in your eyes?
Currently sort of fourth or fifth, so just in that playoff spot. But I think there is a chance that we end up fighting for the title if everything goes perfectly. We don't get injuries and we perform week in week out. We could be in the title race, but for me, I'm just thinking playoff spots. I'll take that. But yeah, I think squad as a whole got lots of quality. I don't think there's in the first team squad there's not a bad player.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of Cleverhouse then as the manager, what do you make of him? Obviously, like you say, came in a difficult spell last season. But he was manager at Kettering for a little bit as well. Got us right up and about the playoff picture. Really decent manager at this level, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. So last season, sort of, I was a bit disappointed by him last season because it was very much he went very direct in style of
Mm.
play, and I just don't think he got the best out of certain players. But I think this preseason he's won me over, so he's sort of embedded his own style where it's much more possession, but fast-paced possession, getting the ball forward. He's obviously built the squad well. I think he's won me back over.
Well, that's exactly what you want, isn't it? I mean, you've obviously said about some of the players you expect to be the driving forces in the St Albans team this season. But for anyone listening or a fan of the Isthmian Leagues, who is a couple of standout players to be paying close attention to? Sorry, in the squad this
I
year.
think one player we actually kept from last season, James Sweet. I just don't know how we kept him. I think he's by far like our best player. Like it was only 18 months ago he was on the bench for Arsenal in the Champions League. Now he's playing the Isthmian, but he's right back, 21 years old or 20 years old, but gets up and down, can sort of play in midfield as well. Just superb player, will create loads of chances, and will chip in with the odd goal here and there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just hope we can manage to keep him all season.
I was gonna say because
Uh,
obviously at this level the window goes on for an eternity,
yeah,
doesn't it? It feels like so. It will definitely be an asset to keep him for sure.
yeah. Then Harrison Smith up front, he's been out injured all of pre-season. He's very injury prone. He's only 20 years old,
Mm.
but when he plays, he does score. I think yeah, last season he got like 7 goals in only like 11 starts in the National
Okay,
League South. But if he can get fit, hopefully in the next few weeks. But if we can get him fit, play him up front, and now we're actually creating chances, something that we
yeah.
just didn't do last season, he should be able to get loads of goals.
Has he played much in
And
pre-season or not?
no, he hasn't had a single
Not
minute
a
yet.
minute, no.
Yeah, but yeah, last time I spoke to him about a game, he said hopefully limited minutes against Chatham first game
Okay,
of the
yeah.
season. But yeah, it's just one of those.
Just getting him, trying
But
to
yeah,
get him
those are
fit.
sort of the two, sort of in terms of pure talent, they're probably the two most talented players in the squad.
Yeah, and the ones you definitely want to try and keep a hold of
Yeah,
throughout the whole
100%.
of the season if you want to be competing for the playoffs. I mean, like I alluded to there, obviously transfers in at this level feel like the window feels like it goes on for an eternity, pretty much the whole season. There's transfer rumours going on. If there was to be one sort or one or two players, then Zach, that you'd like to see St Albans go and make and go and sign, who would you like to see the club bring in?
Well, one is actually, he was with us last season on loan from Colchester, but he got released. And from what I see, he hasn't gone to a club yet. But that's Alfie Bendel.
Mm,
He's central midfielder. He's been playing men's football since he was 16 when he came through at Corinthian Casuals. But last season, he was sort of, out of all the players at the end of the season, he was probably my best player. He would just drive up and down, really hard in midfield, physical presence, and I'd 100% take him back if that possibility arose.
And do you think that's maybe just that little, that little something that St Albans are missing, a player like that, maybe just to try and push the
Not
squad a little
even
bit more?
what we're missing, but I just think someone like him is
Mm,
just someone you'll 100% use at this level and will be such an asset and
yeah,
maybe could take you that extra mile.
no, 100%. Is there anything else at all then on terms of St Albans that you'd like to add at all?
Not really, other than sort of off the pitch, not the best state at the moment. I think the season ticket rise was pretty much disgraceful, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Going from, I think it was early bird was £260 last season, and now there's no early bird,
Yeah,
315 quid. Like, there's no point to buy a season ticket because if you miss 2 games, you make a loss.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, there's been a few poor decisions off the pitch. Obviously, personally getting blocked on Twitter as well. That was that's interesting. Yeah, but yeah,
It's all part and parcel, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it's. But then in terms of on the pitch, obviously you've got so much
yeah,
starting to go in the right direction, of course. Only if obviously you can have the backroom stuff try and sort itself
yeah,
out as well.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think in terms of moving on to Kettering a little bit, then it's obviously been for us. I think a little bit of a summer of change massively, right throughout the club. Obviously, playing squad changes majority of summers anyway, but we've had a complete rebuild this year after missing out on promotion. Some of the better players have moved on. The management team has completely changed as well. That one's still up in the air by the seams of it. I don't think there's still not a conclusive answer as to why Richard Lavery and his management team left. There was a bit of a debacle as such on Twitter. They were just, a lot of statements were being made and posted from all the management team, but the owners came out, did a little interview and whatnot, and tried to clear it up. You don't really know what side's telling the truth. I think it's a bit,
Yeah.
whatever side you think are telling the truth. Who knows? The committee as well, behind the scenes stuff has changed. There's a lot going on. We've only played one game at home in pre-season. Everything else has been on the road because we've been relaying our pitch again. Every summer the pitch gets relayed. Because I don't know if you ever heard about it, but Lambert Park is an awful pitch to play on. And I think they spend about 50 grand a year trying to resurface it and redoing it up.
Our pitch just dries.
I mean, ours is bobbly, dry. It's got a hill in the corner that they've tried to fix for ages, which doesn't seem to be fixed yet. So they've only played one game at home this season, which was on Saturday, like I said, against Basingstoke, and they lost that 3-2. But there was some positives from what I heard. I didn't get down to the game, but there was some positives I heard from other fans. And I think just the biggest disappointment as such this season has been after such a good building block season last year, where, the year before we were in deep trouble of getting back-to-back relegations after being relegated from the National League North. Real trouble. Made a really bad manager appointment in Andy Leese. I don't want to talk too bad about him, but it just did not work one bit at all. And we were in the relegation scrap all season. Richard Larry came in, saved us, and then obviously got us right back up to the top end of the table with a little bit of investment from the new owners. Reaching round 2 as well of the FA Cup, beating Northampton, taking Doncaster to extra time and whatnot. But, losing the likes of Ben Hart, Connor Johnson, and Devon Kelly-Evans, probably our 3 best players last season, is a real sucker punch, especially considering as well they've stayed in the division. They've not gone higher up the pyramid. They've stayed in the division to Spalding and Harbour Town. Granted, I think they'll both be right at the top of the league.
And
but,
both them clubs have just big pockets.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think Ben Hart in particular is one we still haven't replaced. Like you say with the kid that you were speaking about from Arsenal at your at right back for you. Ben Hart was exactly that as well for us. Can chip in with goals, assists, was fantastic in the FA Cup run. And we've had, I think, like 3 or 4 different trialists at right back. And as far as I'm aware, no one has signed yet at right back. So that's a big concern. Add that to other players that have left as well. Tyree Wilson, Aaron Powell went back to Peterborough. So it's been a massive summer of change. And like I said earlier on about pre-season, only playing, the smaller teams, I went down to watch the Moulton pre-season game, and they're a Step 5 side. Very much a sense of trialists trying to make their mark and get their contracts. First half was shocking. If I'm quite honest with you, I've never seen anything so bad in my life. But then 3-0 quite easily in the second half after Simon Holyhead, the new manager, made changes. And just quickly on Simon, he's coming in with so much experience in this level. And he's also, he's been an assistant manager in the Champions League with Malmo before. There's a fair bit of buzz about him from the fans. He had the best defensive record in the league as well last season at Banbury, and especially when we're probably lacking in defensive areas, I'd like to hope that he brings some defensive stewardity and solidness to the back line. A back line that still needs a lot of work doing to it. So yeah, it's been a summer of all change, if I'm honest with you, mate.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. With the defensive record, that's actually relatable to St Albans because that's one thing Coldhouse has done, made us a very defensively solid side. I think over pre-season we conceded 2 at home in 5 games. But even last season, our defence we had a mid-table defensive record.
Yeah,
so just had goals.
I think last season our defence was. At times they had little blips, but we still had one of the better defensive records in the league. We had the best attack by quite some way, I'm pretty sure. And the attacking options have never been a problem for us since these new owners come in, because I think they like a flashy number 9 for sure. Because I think at one point last season we had 5 number 9s, and all very similar profile as well. It's not like you can shift one out to the left and make it work, because I think we shifted Johnny Edwards, to the left, and that was not working. But as you have him as a number 9, he's fantastic. We've got a number of really good attacking options again this year, but defensively, from what I've heard, because I spoke to a couple of Kettering fans who have managed to get to a couple more preseason games than me, and they're saying that the defensive issues are what is really concerning at the moment, how frail we look at the back. And I think we've only got 3 centre-backs signed on, and 2 of them picked up knocks in pre-season. Nothing serious, but I think they both... I'm pretty sure George Forsyth came over it, not sure on Lewis White, but they've... To have 2 of your 3 starting centre-backs pick up knocks, it's not ideal, to say the least, mate.
Yeah.
But, he also said, I'm just going to get it up now quickly, because I messaged him during the weekend to try and give me a bit more of a clear understanding on Kettering's pre-season. And this is a Twitter handle on X, on a massive Kettering Twitter page, sorry. And his handle is @up_UTP. And he said he thinks that it's been a typical Kettering Town pre-season over the last 10 years, where a lot of new players getting used to each other, new manager, trying to get used to new players, swapping between formations, a 3-5-2 and a 3-4-3 all pre-season. Looking good going forward, but like I said, they're really not looking convincing at the back. And it's a bit of a worry, isn't it, wouldn't you think? Because at this level, Zach, you need a convincing back line, don't you?
100%, because at this level you have so many good attackers and like those flashy wingers
Yeah.
who will just tear apart a weak defence. I think if you don't have a good foundation at the back, there's just nothing there, because also a lot of, like, especially at this level, you're talking about the right back position where you haven't filled. Actually, the full back position in non-league is massive, because that's actually one of your biggest driving forces.
No, 100%.
I think that's very important to get sorted early on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think changing between formations, and Simon has brought a couple of his own players in from Banbury as well that have looked bright. A number of changes, like I said, but the strengths and weaknesses very much lie, at both ends of the pitch. The strengths, like I've said, in the forward lines with Jamal Loza, who's been around, the EFL and non-league for quite some time. Leon Ledgebit, the second top goal scorer at this level, as he won the league with Bedford. I think we always felt that if he was to leave Bedford, he could come to us. But I thought he'd go higher. To be fair, I thought he'd give it a crack at the National League North or South. Eddie Opang, as I said, someone that was a bit of an unknown, but has been really bright in pre-season. And the reintroduction of Niall Ranger that caught everyone off guard this week, if I'm honest, mate.
I saw him at Barnet earlier on in pre-season against
Neville. Well, yeah, that's the thing. He spent the entire pre-season at Barnet. Yeah. By the sounds of it, did not get offered a deal. Didn't really,
from what I hear, he spends actually it's been a few years. He spends pre-season at Barnet just for fitness. And fitness. So yeah.
And then he's come back to us, and no one's really sure on how long he's going to be here, because it came out last week as someone did some digging, and he was actually still registered for us on the Southern Central registration page, and someone found his name, and then literally 2 days later, Kettering announced that he was in the squad to play Basingstoke. So no one knows how long he's going to be here. Some people think that it's just going to be a month. There's rumours that he's still only got like a month left on his contract. Some people have said that his contract's already been terminated. He's just coming back to try and get some fitness again. If he is around for the start of the season, it is someone that does add quality and does add goals. Yeah. There is a feeling that he was, he could have done more last season. I think he only got 9 league goals, but you have to remember he spent a lot of time out of the game as well.
Yeah, wasn't it like 18 months?
Yeah, he spent a lot of time out of the game. He came into a system where he even himself was chopping and changing out of the squad as well. But he popped up in big moments. Like, I don't know if you saw his goal against Northampton in the FA Cup, his header.
I was watching.
Yeah, so he pops up with big moments in big games. So I think it's definitely an asset to have him. Like I said before we started recording, Kettering are announcing a new signing at any point today, which is apparently going to be a centre-back. So fingers crossed on that. We brought Archie Crofer in, on loan from Kings Lynn this week as well, 21 years old. Played at this level with a couple of teams, but shone at Overchurch before he got his move to Kings Lynn. Fantastic player, and scored as well on his debut against Basingstoke. So it's, slowly but surely, I think we're going to get there. And I said I had a little discussion with Kettering fans over Twitter. the other day. I think that with these owners, say come November, December time, we're off the pace, I can expect them to spend or reinvest in the squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like I back the board since they've come in. They've given the managers what they need and everything that they need and whatnot, and they seem like really nice people. I spoke to them before as well, and I just hope that it gets it right. I know they had this 2-year project of getting out of the league. This is that second year now, and I question whether they'll get out of the league this year or not. But that remains to be seen, mate. To be honest. So like we say then with Kettering, how much of the Southern Central as a whole do you know about?
To be fair, out of all of them, that's probably the one I'm weakest about. Some knowledge. I've got a few notes about it, but
And
yeah,
yeah, it's a tough division sometimes to call. To be fair, um, anyone can finish anywhere, and like when I get into my predictions in a little bit, it's going to be very very interesting. One player then I'd like us to try and sign. So we've spoke about defense a lot in terms of Kettering over the last 10 minutes or so. It's a complex one. The player I'd like to sign because he's just gone to Bedford this summer.
yeah,
So it's all very much if buts and maybes because I wonder if they're struggling at step 2 and we're possibly in a promotion fight, could we tempt him to come to us to then get another crack at step 2 with us next season if we were to get promoted? And it's someone who knows well. He's been around the club a lot. Like he often goes down to Kettering games when he never had a game playing. He was seen at the playoff final as well, just before he left St. Ives to go to Bedford. And that's Will Glennon. Now, this is 21-22, I believe he is. He's played across the level with St. Ives and Stamford, centre-back, but can also play in that deep-lying defensive midfield role. So he's versatile at that. And he's also he chipped in with 10 goals last season as well from centre back and defensive midfield. Now he does take a couple of penalties, but I think for a centre back to be scoring 10 goals, fantastic. But in terms of his defensive play, he's commanding, he's quick, he's tall, he's strong, and it's what Kettering probably need. And being from around the Northamptonshire area as well, being born and played down the road at Rushden and Diamonds through their academies and so forth. It's definitely someone I think we could tempt. But like I say, it's all if buts and maybes if Bedford are doing bad and we're doing good. Excuse me. But yeah, just one more thing quickly then to round off on Kettering before we move on. I put a message on the Kettering group to try and find out from fans on their thoughts on who they'd want to come in. I had a few people saying Ellis Miles. Now, any Kettering fans that will be listening know a lot about him. He was with the club a few years ago, got promoted with Telford last season in the playoffs. And then he went to Bedford after leaving Telford. Spent about a month or two there, but had to leave due to family and travel commitments. But I didn't realise until last night that he'd signed for Rugby Borough at step 4. So he's dropped a couple of levels, but it's obviously due to, purely down to a family decision. Some others have said, replacing Devon Kelly-Evans with a commanding midfielder. Rob Morgan's been spoken about a couple of times. Michael Richards, who has been at the club before. So there's a few people floating about then, mate. And like I said, I do back the board to get something done, if I'm honest.
yeah.
And I'd like to think so anyway. I'd like to hope so. And with that all being said and done, I think Kettering will probably... I've actually been a lot more optimistic than other people, to be honest, mate, because everyone's been putting their predictions out this week, and people have got them like 6th, 7th, 8th, just missing out on playoffs. I may have gone way too early, and I put us 3rd. That's maybe the fact that we're maybe one of the bigger teams in this league, and I'd expect us to be at the top end of it. But
that's also part of my thinking with St Albans.
Yeah.
We are the biggest team in the league.
Exactly. And I think, obviously, I think Harbour and Spalding, when I get onto them later, they'll be well and clear, I think, of the rest of the division. But I really think those playoff spots from 3rd, probably down to 10th, anyone can get in. And I just feel if we get a little bit of momentum behind us, and with such a powerful forward line, we should be able to see ourselves in good contention. That being said, I'm still unsure if we'll go up through the playoffs, even if we did make it. Okay, so looking away from our teams then, Zach, and looking across the Isthmian and the Southern Central to our predictions, league winners, playoff teams, relegated teams, a couple of surprise packages and biggest flops and whatnot. And we'll start with the Isthmian again then, mate, and I'll let you kick us off with some of your predictions.
So personally, I think Billericay will win the league.
Mm,
Although they did lose 6-0 in their last pre-season game to Horsham, not looking too much into that, but just their squad has been just really well built. Like in the middle, you've got Ryan Blackman, former St Albans player, bit of a cult hero with us, but he's someone who gives you 100% week in, week out, and will just fight for the badge no matter
yeah,
where he's at. And I think him in there, you've got Jazzy Barn and Bob at right back, and also can play right wing from Chelmsford, who's someone who's done very well at sort of National League South, dropped down to step three. He's also 29 experienced, but also Liam Nash up front is
mm,
just a ridiculous signing. I think he got 15 goals last season for in the National League South
yeah,
for Hornchurch and Worthing. Um, then dropping down back to step three, I just think it's ridiculous. I think definitely some money's been spent there.
100%.
Then you've also got Elliot Long, who really impressed me when he was at Wingate a couple of years ago. Went to Welling last season, just didn't impress there, but I just didn't think he suited their style of play. It was
No,
very direct, and he's a very small player, so just didn't get on to the end of anything. But he was on loan at Billericay at the end of last season. I think got like 7 or 8 goals in like
mm,
15 games. Like step three is the top player. And I just think Billericay have one of those squads where you've got quality, you've got experience, and it's clear they've spent quite a bit of money this year. So I just think in terms of pure quality, they're by far the best in the league, and I think they'll run away with it.
yeah, and I think it's probably missing out on it last season, didn't they, in their playoffs?
Yeah,
And I think it's about time now they get back out of this league, isn't it?
yeah, 100%. And they've spent the money.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a shock if they don't go up this year.
I mean, what about someone like Dartford then as well? Because
Yeah,
obviously,
Dartford, I think, will be up there. I think they'll probably be second, third.
yeah,
Keeping Carruthers in midfield, just another one of those experienced players who's been at like towards the top. Now he's like mid 30s. It's one of those who just probably doesn't have the pace to keep up with the game, but he definitely has the
mm,
technical quality. Then also keeping Ollie Box
yeah, definitely,
again.
yeah,
I'm not sure how they've done that one.
yeah.
It's another one where it's just like crazy. But he's a very quality player. Will be
mm,
very much getting them goals, creating chances. Then Eddie Desane and Olabade as well, two top players. I think, yeah.
yeah. Then across the other, playoff spots as well. Obviously, you say, Dartford in there, probably St Albans as well. Is there anyone else that you think will be in and around that
Um,
picture?
Folkestone, I think, although obviously having ground issues for the first few months might not help,
Mm,
but it could also work in their favour. But getting in Tonbridge's manager, Jay Saunders, from last season in sort of a shock move because Jay Saunders is one of those who you would expect to get a move higher up,
yeah.
not lower down. But as a sort of statement of intent, bringing Kevin Loco in defence from Maidenhead, I thought he was one of Maidenhead's better defenders in the National League, so going to
Mm,
step three should be quite easy for him. Also, Montel McKenzie at right back,
yeah.
um, another quality sort of step three player. So yeah, I think they'll be up there. Also Chatham as well, being full time. Probably for me, not the best squad on paper, but just that full time advantage will just push them up there.
No, 100%, yeah.
Tope Fadden Sheik, I can't say his name, but he's a quality player, and Jamie Yeeler as well for them. So I think Chatham will also be in the playoffs. They're sort of the teams who I have as playoffs.
Yeah, and then obviously, it's only the 5th of August today, but
Yeah, so
if
much can change.
so much can change. But if it was to be, as you say, those four teams in the playoffs, who would you back the most to go on and get something done?
Well, if it was St Albans in there, we're a playoff side. Like
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago, got to a playoff final with the third smallest budget in the league.
Mm.
Um, but I think we'd do all right in playoffs. If not, I think Dartford as well. Because when it comes to playoffs, I always think about fan bases.
Yeah.
Dartford, very big fan base. Same with sort of Chatham as well. But yeah, I'm not really one to call playoffs now as well because it's just like so unpredictable.
No, true.
But yeah,
Very true. I think I should learn to do that as well after Kettering losing in the final to Telford.
yeah.
But yeah, on terms of the bottom end of the table, then, mate, a couple of relegation teams who you think could be in real danger this
I
season.
think one of the teams who will be down there is Canvey Island, although they have an ex-England interim manager as their manager, Peter Taylor.
Hmm.
Their squad's just gotten significantly weaker from last year. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but one of their best players went to hashtag, and it's just a very thin, weak squad. Not
Yeah.
much there. White Hawk as well. Just stayed up last season by the skin of their teeth, but they're another team who've just gotten weaker, and I can't see them staying up.
Hmm.
And also Burgess Hill, I think, getting promoted, haven't added much to their squad. So very sort of, there's a few older players like Chris Webdale,
Yeah.
but I just don't think he's one of those who will be able to do it at step three. I think his legs are gone.
No.
Very
No,
much so.
exactly. And then in terms of, just above that, is there anyone who could be right in that playoff, not playoff, sorry, in relegation candidates all season, but maybe just have enough to survive?
I can't really. Dulwich Hamlet, actually.
Yeah.
Like, people, like, they're a massive club, they get 3,000 a week.
Yeah.
Last season, they were lucky not to go down. And this season, again, I'm just not impressed by their squad. I think their best signing was Alfie Payne from St Albans.
Mm.
And even then, he was dreadful for us last season. That's like one game he went to play a short pass and it just went out of the ground. But with Alfie Payne, is the year before he was at Braintree when they got promoted and was their player of the season. So there
Yeah.
clearly is a player in there. But if they can get that player, then I think they'll do well. But Dulwich, yeah, I've not much about him. I know their manager was saying they're targeting mid-table, which I already isn't inspiring.
No, definitely not. No,
But
you
yeah,
want a bit more inspiration behind you. Maybe
then
just,
sort
you
of
know,
additionally surprise package for me.
yeah.
I've got down as Wingate.
Mm.
They're always a team who people sort of expect to go down or be towards the bottom end. But I think with their manager, Armet, I think they'll be up there. Every year they've sort of been up there when people expect them to be down there. They've brought in Camilo Restrepo from Hashtag, who I think is a fantastic player at step three. So yeah, I think they're going to be my surprise package who could be fighting for playoffs.
Yeah, and then what about someone like a biggest flop? Now, you can take this as as a team or as a player who could flop, a new signing or something like that. Who would be
Well,
one of the
what
biggest
I had
flops?
down was Dulwich.
Yeah,
So we've spoken about them. Trying to think now who else. Uh, Mine's gone blank about this one. So come back to me on that one.
that's absolutely fine, mate. I will. I mean, is there anything else then? Of course, looking at the Isthmian League, then maybe looking at top goal scorers and people that could have players who could have top seasons at step three.
Well, Ollie Box, as
Yeah,
mentioned at Dartford, he's more of a creator, but he can get goals. I think due to his age, he's someone who's only going to get better. Uh, Also with St Albans, as mentioned earlier as well, Harrison Smith, if he can get fit, which is a big if, he could he could easily get 25 plus. Uh, and also Billericay, Liam Nash. Like when Hornchurch got promoted, I think he got 30 goals.
well, there you go.
Uh,
Then. It's proven
yeah,
quality. It's
yeah.
absolutely proven quality. And is there anything else then at all, on the Isthmian League that you want to add on?
Uh, oh yeah, hashtag. What's his name? Oh, his name's actually gone up my mind. But they a really strong centre forward. I'm actually checking for his name now. Though, just find
That's all good.
put it in my notes. Luke May Parrott.
Yes, yeah, Luke May Parrott,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think he'll be a very much a standout for them, and will drive them up the league. I think he was out injured for a fair bit last
Mm.
season, but if they keep him fit, play him up front, I think he's easily going to get them 20 goals. I think he'll
No,
be a player to watch.
yeah, they've got a lot of quality in the hashtag team, and I thought they'd be like at one point last season an outside shout for playoffs around the
Yeah,
halfway mark because they really did get a real good run together, didn't they, towards that
yeah,
second half of the season, and obviously the eyes of the YouTube on them as well. get to see St Albans on YouTube as well, mate. You know, with all the camera crew for this hashtag we've got. I mean, have you managed to think of a biggest flop as of yet, other than just Dulwich and Dulwich Hamlet?
Not really.
I mean,
Like, I
I
think
think Dulwich
everything.
is definitely, you know, a good shout, isn't it? Because, like you
Lewis,
say,
Lewis potentially.
yeah,
As I look at, I think obviously lost their manager to Tom Bridge,
mm,
and our squad's gotten weak. They brought in a couple good players, Dan Bowery being one of them, but I just think it's very weak squad.
no, definitely. I think I saw a podcast the other day. Obviously, Lewis fans, they were on it, but they were saying they can get into the playoff picture this season. I mean, I'm sure you don't see that happening.
No, not personally.
I mean, let's talk the Southern Central then for a minute, and you know, a couple of the predictions that I've done this week. I posted them up onto my Twitter page, and everything else had some decent responses, had some questionable ones, had some the Kettering fans, of course, coming out and saying, you know, trying to lower my expectations a little bit. But in terms of the title, I think, like I said earlier, Spalding and Harborough, like you alluded to as well, two teams that have got money and have put their money well about this division. Harborough, of course, got to round two themselves in the FA Cup last season with some really talented players. Connor Kennedy in the middle of the park, who actually missed that game at Reading, but he's a real driving force from the centre of the park. Super defensively minded, and I'm very shocked he's not had an opportunity to play higher as of yet, because when he was at Kettering in the National League North, there was so much talk about, you know, League Two, National League being in around him. But it's just not happened for him yet, but he's a quality player for them. In terms of Harbour as well, they signed a couple of Brackley's players as well that got them promoted out of the National League North. Danny Newton's gone in, scored a bucket load of goals already in pre-season. He's going to be a talented player for them, probably one of the top goal scorers in the league. So I expect them to be up there. And Spalding as well, they've spent money really well. They've just signed someone, I can't remember his name for love nor money, but I'm pretty sure he was at Grimsby last season and played a fair few games for Grimsby as well in League Two. But I cannot remember his name for love nor money. But like I said, they've signed Connor Johnson and Ben Hart from us, who have obviously gone in and made an impact straight away. They've had a good pre-season. They've got a striker up front. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. It's a Polish striker, it is. He was on the books at Derby a couple of years ago. Still very young. He's tall. He's powerful.
Blisky.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. Yeah. But he scored quite a few goals last season. Looked pretty bright as well. Could see him having another good season this year. But in terms of those two, I'm going to edge it Harborough just because I think the driving force for them is Mitch Austin, a fantastic manager who his connection with the fans and everything around that club, making it such a community club, because Harborough is such a small little village or town even, but it's the quality oozing out that squad, matched with, you know, Mitch Austin as a fantastic manager and the community aspect he brings to it, how involved he is in Harbour Town as well, because I'm sure he's had offers to go higher up, but he stayed with the club. I'm just going to edge it to them. I'll see Spalding come into second. I'll see Kettering third. And then the rest of the playoff, like I mentioned earlier, mate, it's going to be really difficult to judge. Real Bedford, obviously, I think we both expect them probably to be in and around it.
I've personally got them slightly, I think, higher than you in my mind.
So I've got them fourth, I believe, in my prediction.
I think they could sneak into the title race, personally.
They definitely could.
What Rob Sinclair's done there is sort of, he came in, 3-4 years ago as manager?
Yeah.
He brought in all these players, and just every year he just brings in 2 or 3
just to add a little bit of quality.
And I think he's just got a perfect mix there. And obviously they've had a perfect pre-season, won every game. And I just think it's one of those where it's just like, obviously, like, you look at their squad, there's not any like big names, but it's a squad that works.
No,
places
100%.
where it's young. There's the thing that he doesn't have any like older experience players. It's all youthful, so much energy.
Yeah,
will wear teams down. So part of me thinks they could go for the title.
They could definitely sneak in there for sure. And I think they're very much like still, like you said, they had a great preseason. And I think they've won so many games quite convincingly as well. Like, you know, you look at their game. I watched their game against Corby. who are step 4, but they were very unlucky not to get promoted. They only didn't get promoted from step 4 because Corn had an unbelievable season, getting 100 points. And I think only losing 1 or 2 games. If it weren't for Corn, Corby would have been right up there. Sadly, lost in the playoffs to Worcester as well. But Real Bedford, I can definitely see, and like you say, with a little bits of quality, I think Connor T for one. Coming in from Hales Owen, someone who's been in this division for a while. He's been at the likes of Bromsgrove before as well. He's hit the ground running in pre-season. Obviously, you don't want to read too much into pre-season, but he is definitely, I think he could be one of the signings of the season. Real Bedford are definitely going to be an exciting watch, and I'm going to be there on Saturday for their first game, which is against Spalding as well. So that could be a huge starting game for them. The only thing that I do maybe question with them could be, because obviously, like you say, they've had such success over the last 3 years, right? I do maybe wonder what could happen if they get in a little bit of a bad spell, potentially. Yeah. What sort of, mindset that puts them in, because obviously they've blown away the last 3 divisions.
Yeah, I think in the last 3 years, they've only lost, 12, 15 league games.
Exactly. So it's very much an unknown with them, isn't it? On if they do go in a little bad spell, how does Rob get them up? But I think the quality and the players that they've got, the know-how is set free. I think they'll be able to deal with it. I could see them getting in and around that little title fight. I just think maybe Spalding and Harbour just have that little bit more at the moment. And then the rest of the playoff picture, it's super tough for that final 5th spot. I went with Needham Market, who have just come down from step 2, and you never really know how a team's going to do after they've been relegated. But they blew the division away last time they were here. They always seem to be up and around the playoff picture. They're a very good team at this level. And I think the reason I've got them here ahead of some other teams like Stamford, like Hales Owen, like Stratford possibly, and a couple of others, is generally just down to the know-how of this division and being in and around the playoffs for so many years. So that would be my playoff picture. I had a couple of Bury fans come in for me the other day because I got them to come dead last, and I probably did do them a bit of a disservice, to be honest, because I just do not know a lot about them, and I know I think they finished 3rd or 4th in the division, but won the playoffs last season. So it's maybe not a very convincing side for me to come up to the division. I just feel that this is going to be a very, very big step for them. But I'm happy to be proven wrong.
The thing with predictions, you always have to have people coming after.
Yeah, exactly.
I had Carl Shelton fans coming after me.
I mean, yeah, I'm just not clued up enough. I mean, maybe I should start watching some Bury games and try and get a bit more of an understanding. But I just feel they'll come dead last. The other 3 then, I've chopped and changed with this for a while when I before I did my predictions. Barwell for me though were a definite, and I think they're a definite for quite a few people because they flirted with it for quite a while. They've tried to add. They've added a decent little bit of quality. Like I said, Tyree Wilson from us. They've got a decent forward line, but they flirted with that drop zone for so long. They're only here because they got a reprieve last season as well. So they got relegated last season, but they got reprived. And I just feel time's probably up for them now. I went with Sudbury as well. They were in and around that relegation picture all of last season, but then went on a mega run, losing just one of their last 8 games, which steered them just a couple of points from safety. I don't think their recruitment's been that great. I think there's still a bit.
They've lost a few players, haven't they?
Yeah, there's still a lot to be desired in that.
Needham Market.
Exactly. I think there's still a lot to be desired there. So I don't see them really poising a threat to stay up. And the other one that, caught a few off guard was Royston. And originally I had Redditch in there, but I changed last minute because I just don't know what it was. I weren't really convinced by their signings. I know a couple of fans had said that, some of the forward players they'd signed could be positive, and this is a team that have always been upper mid-table in the Southern Central, but I just could not shake the feeling out of me for any reason whatsoever. I just have that feeling Royston are going to slip this season, and they're probably going to prove me wrong because they'll probably beat Kettering on Saturday. But I just feel this is maybe going to be a tough season for them. and after a number of years at mid-table, it could be time for them to go. In terms of surprise package, I mentioned them earlier. Corn for me, with what the club is doing on and off the pitch. Ryan Bestwick, I think, is a very, very good manager at this level, and not even just a good manager, a good player, because he's still playing as well. Heaps of experience in the United of Solihull Moors and so forth. Add that to some youthful energy in the squad that they've got, mixed with experience. I think they'll be more than fine because so many people have got them going down this season. I think they could be, 10th upwards, possibly in a playoff picture for a little bit of time, maybe fall off at the back end of the season. But you can't underestimate someone, can you, mate, that, scored 100 points in the division below, with it especially being wrapped up. I think it was 2 months before the season's end. I think they were the second team in the country to have their division wrapped up. Might have been Macclesfield just before them or around the same sort of time. But I could see them being in a playoff picture. I really, really can. I believe they just signed Adi Youssef, who a decent striker at this level, but can be a bit lazy sometimes. But can definitely score you goals. And another little surprise package I maybe had in there as well was St. Ives, who I think will have a good season with Kobe Chong coming back a year out from injury. He was in fine form for St. Ives before his injury. Barwell as well previously. He was at them and was a catalyst for them just staying above the drop. And then obviously he leaves, and a year later they get relegated. So I think he could be a massive, massive player for St. Ives this season. And I think they'll have a good season because I know some people have got them down the bottom end, but I think a mid-table finish for them would be fantastic. And then finally as well, my biggest flops, I'll go with Hales Owen because it's a team that made the playoffs last season, a team that, like Needham Market, whenever they're in this division, constantly in and around it. Decent summer signings as well, to be honest, like Jason Cowley from Hereford, who can score goals, Kyle Finn, who played a number of games with Tamworth in the National League as well last season. But I think losing, like we've mentioned, Connor T to Real Bedford, I think is the big one. Kieran Donnelly as well has gone to Boston, who was their top goal scorer. I want to say 24 he scored last season, and a number of assists as well. So trying to replace those two is massive. And I just feel they'll slip out of it. And with the division getting tougher at the top, I think they could fall out of the playoffs. Having seen, a number of people tip them for promotion, I just don't see it personally, mate, to be honest.
If you lose, not the players that big, I think.
Exactly. And I think, Connor T, like I've already said, I rate him so highly, and I think he'll be the signing of the season potentially. Kieran Donnelly as well, which is probably one I've overlooked a little bit because he's obviously gone to Boston, but he was fantastic last season as well, and he'll be a real, real loss for Hales Owen. I know Kettering and Hales Owen fans love to have a little bit of back and forth with each other. They had it a lot last season. But I think it's going to be a big change for both teams this season, and I think Hales Owen will just miss out. I mean, is there anything at all that you have on the Southern League at all, Zach?
Not really. For Needham Market signing, one of my all-time sort of cult heroes from St Albans, Joe Neal. I think that was good signing, especially at step 3. But that's sort of it. Like Southern Central is my weakest league.
Yeah.
In terms of knowledge, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's quickly go then, before we slowly start to round up, then some fan perspectives, because obviously we did post predictions across our Twitter pages and whatnot over the last week or so. I mean, Zach, is there anything that, caught your eye that you either agree or disagree with?
Well, I predicted Carshot to finish like 19th, 18th. Obviously, last season they came, I think, was it 8th or 9th? Obviously, Carshot fans think they're going to push on for playoffs, but I think most importantly, they lost Kwaku Frimpong to Worthing. And he was like their midfield player, young, but he was like the centre core of the team. I just don't think they've replaced him. I think the squad sort of stayed the same, maybe weakened a little bit, but the rest of the league's gotten tougher. I think that's why they're going to slide down quite a bit. So that's sort of the big disagreement I had. But
yeah, I mean, in terms of a couple that I saw, I had a couple of Hales Owen fans say that they're going to be going for playoffs. I saw a Harper Town fan saying that Kettering are going to be in a relegation battle. I think that's obviously him trying to be a bit of banter, but I can't see that happening. Touch wood, anyway. Yeah, and like I said already, Kettering fans having us outside the playoff spots caught me off guard a little bit. But one that actually was quite shocked with was Redditch, because there's quite a few people that have got them. Now, like I said, I toyed with the idea of them going down, but there's quite a few people that have got them maybe pushing playoff positions. I personally don't. Excuse me. I personally don't see it with their recruitment. I mean, their recruitment's been good, but I don't know if it's enough to push them from a bottom end table or a bottom end team right up to playoff contention, especially with how tough the division is at the top end. But I think it's one of the reasons I have them staying up is because of their recruitment. So I can see why people are getting on the bandwagon of him a little bit, but I just don't think, playoff picture may be just out of reach for them. So that's a couple of fan perspectives I've seen across my Twitter page this week. And then, let's quickly round up then, Zach. And could you just give a little overview of, the Isthmian predictions and what we spoke about today from your side?
Yes, I think with the Isthmian as a whole, it's going to be a very, very tough league. It's always has been. I think sort of up there is going to be, well, I think Billericay will run away with it, as mentioned he said. Then I think the playoffs will sort of be Dartford, St Albans, Folkestone. That's my view. But I think sort of I haven't actually mentioned this, but I think on the outside of the playoffs will be sort of Wingate, sort of Cray Valley Paper Mills, and sort of Ramsgate. Then I think towards the bottom will sort of be your Dulwich, Carshalton, Whitehawk, Burgess Hill, then and Canvey Island as well.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then in terms of the Southern Central, I feel like I said, Harbour Town will win the league. I think them and Spalding will be in the league of their own this season. So I can see them winning the league. In terms of the playoff picture, I've got Spalding, Kettering, Rail Bedford, and Needham Market. If it was to be those four, I'd probably edge Spalding. But like we said earlier, it's the 5th of August. Anything can change between now and May. But I would go with them four in the playoff spots, but then also just missing out the likes of, Hales Owen, Stamford, Stratford, Corn potentially going in there and shocking a few people to potentially push on for playoffs. So that's what I've got in the top end of the table. Bottom end of the table, sorry, Berry fans, I've got you dead last. I'm ready to get a bit more hate for that one. I'm doubling down. Sudbury as well, going down with them. Barwell and Royston all going down to step 4. In terms of like top goal scorers in the league, I think Leon Ledgebit, even without my Kettering hat on, would be right up there for me as the top goal scorer in the league. Proven quality in this division. And I think Jason Cowley, even though I said that Hales Owen may just finish outside the playoffs, I think he could score a fair few goals at step 3. So that's my little roundup then of the Southern Central and a little roundup of today's previews from step 3. And obviously football is back and I cannot wait for it all to kick off this weekend, Zach.
Yeah, me too. Competitive football. Last competitive game I went to was obviously in February.
Yeah.
Before I went travelling, so it'll be good to actually see a competitive game.
Are you heading down to the Chatham game on Saturday?
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will be at Rail Bedford versus Spalding, which could be an early indication to the title fight. It's definitely going to be a good game. It's going to be a good season across both divisions, that's for sure. Well, look, Zach, thank you for joining me today, mate. I obviously enjoyed speaking about, step 3 football and what's to come for both our teams.
That was enjoyable. Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, thank you to everyone who has listened and taken the time to tune in today. We have got another couple of episodes lined up, so be sure to keep in contact with our socials. Be sure if you are watching on YouTube to like and subscribe. But until next time, we will see you then.